going kind of to that third game, Renteria took a lot of heat for starting Dane Dunning. Do you think it was deserved? Did you like the opener move? What did you think about that decision?
Well, the thing is if you're going to use an opener and only have them go one inning, use a reliever. Use someone who is used to only throwing one inning. Because then when you get down the stretch of the fifth and sixth inning, and like we saw, they're running out of bullpen arms, and they need someone to go to possibly a little bit more than two and a third, or even three innings. You know, you can't rely on Giolito. Obviously can't rely on Keuchel. So, you know, if you're going to use an opener, and we saw it was successful with the Brewers in their playoff run to an extent. You know, obviously that kind of ran out for them. But if you're going to use someone to start off an inning, I question why they use Dane Dunning. And if you're going to go with Dane Dunning, have him throw three innings. You know, they had a runner on third. I get that. But if you're going to trust a guy to start a game that's a starter, allow him to get out of that inning. So, if, like you said, they wanted to use that strategy, they kind of had to. But have, you know, a guy like Dane Dunning go 2 or 3 innings, because then the rest of the way they were reliant on bullpen arms, which in the end, you could see Evan Marshall in his second inning, he kind of lost a little bit of what he has, and it didn't work down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, I actually didn't mind them starting Dane Dunning out of all the options they had, because the other next best option would have been Dylan Cease, who pitched the day before, and his struggles in the first inning have been well documented. And Gio Gonzalez is hurt. Ronaldo Lopez, their other star, didn't even make the roster. So Dane Dunning's a guy, he's pitched in the College World Series before. He's been a starter. He's comfortable in that situation. I was fine with the decision to start him. But I 100% agree. I think Rick Renteria, that whole bullpen fiasco, I don't think was necessarily his fault, except for 2 major mistakes, and one of them was pulling Dane Dunning that early after 15 pitches. Because you're sending a message to your offense that, yeah, I don't trust you guys if you're 1 run down. You have the bullpen warming up after one guy gets on base. That's sending a message to Dunning. Yeah, we don't trust you either. And then you're putting a lot of strain on the rest of your bullpen by pulling him so soon. So I agree with you there. Steve Stone brought up an interesting point. He said he thought Dunning shouldn't have even been starting because he was clearly fatigued and he had some arm strain. I don't know if that's true or not. But that'd be something that Don Cooper or the pitching staff, I would think, would have to keep an eye on. But yeah, I agree with you on that end.
Yeah, I don't disagree with starting Dane Dunning, but if you're going to start him,
Start him, yeah.
You know, like have him go. I mean, he only had to do like 3 innings. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, it's not like we were expecting him to, you know, go 8 innings, 1 unearned run. I mean, go 3 innings. Even if you give up 1 run in 3 innings, I would have considered that better than what they did.
Yeah. Like Garrett Crochet hurting his arm didn't help either. There are some guys that just simply didn't get the job done. Evan Marshall, who's been great all year, didn't do his job. I think Aaron Bummer was brought in early. He was expected to get some outs. He didn't get the job done. The other questionable decision, and this is the only other decision I really questioned from Renteria this game, was he put in Carlos Rodon, and then after he loaded the bases, he decided to bring in Matt Foster. And he intentionally walked a guy to get to he intentionally walked, I think it was Chad Pinder, who's been no world beater this year, to load the bases.
Second and third, and they elected to walk him because Rodon didn't have the necessary batter space.
Right. Did you agree? What did you think of that decision? Because that changed the whole game right there. You bring in Matt Foster, who had no command, walked in 2 runners, and that flipped the script.
Yeah, it didn't seal the nail in the coffin, but after that inning, the chances of the White Sox winning that ball game was extremely low. Rodon didn't look bad.
No, I agree. His stuff was good.
He did not look bad. I mean, if he looked bad, if he was throwing meatballs and they were hitting him, but they hit tough pitches, and then you don't even trust Rodon. And I get it, Rodon hasn't played a lot this year, but Rodon, I mean, how many years has he been in the league now? 4?
Yeah, but mostly hurt for the majority of those, but yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not, let Rodon throw to him. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're going to walk, Chad Pinder?
Yeah.
I don't even know his name, Jesus.
Yeah, it's exactly, that's why, yeah.
This is playoff baseball. You're going to face a lot of guys better than that. So I would have liked to see Rodon pitch to him, and let's say he gets him out. Rodon can then pitch that next inning.
Mm-hmm. As a starter, too, he can take some stress off.
Foster,
yep.
Obviously, I don't think Renteria envisioned Matt Foster doing what he did. I mean, that was awful. But yeah, I agree with you. I did not like that decision either.
And I'm fine with putting in Matt Foster. I would just put him in a clean inning. Because I think Rodon, he only needed one more out. Like you said, his stuff looked good. They said it on the broadcast, and Rick Renteria even said it after the game. Like, it took a really good piece of hitting by Marcus Semien to even get that double off of him. So I would have liked to see him at least try and finish it instead of throwing Foster into the fire. But what are you going to do? Would you like to see a new manager moving forward with this team? There's been a lot of calls for Renteria's job, but they did make the playoffs this year. They showed some improvement. Where are you on that end?
Well, as you know me, Mitch, I have called for Renteria's head for the past 3 seasons. I called for it 2 seasons ago. I called for it last season, and at the beginning of this season I called for it. But I am going to surprise you and say I don't think he should be fired.
Really?
Really. I think he gets one more chance. Obviously, he was dealt an unlucky hand going into this game with pitching. And we really couldn't have foreseen, Matt Foster walking into batters. You couldn't have foreseen Derek Crochet getting injured. I think you give him one more shot. And next year, hopefully it's going to be a regular year. So next year is going to be the first full regular season that you kind of see him with talent on that roster. So I give him one more year.
I am pleasantly surprised you said that, because I was prepared to defend Renteria myself. He got raked over the coals on Twitter. So if you were to call for his job, you wouldn't have been alone. But I agree with you. I think Renteria, one, he was dealt a bad hand with the fact that the rotation isn't very good. You are outside the top 2 guys, there's not a whole lot of depth there. They need to go add another person. And the game came down to, he made 2 bad decisions with the bullpen, but a lot of guys just simply not doing their job. I think Renteria, the guys play hard for him. He's the multilingual with the heavily, they have a lot of Cubans in the roster, so it helps when you have a manager that can speak Spanish and English. The message gets across a lot better. I think another team, they get some extra pieces. I think they're definitely capable of running it back because he's built a pretty good culture there. And this is his first year of his managerial career that he has had a competitive roster. And what did he do? He took them to the playoffs. They had one of the best offenses in baseball, so you can't really complain about the batting order. So yeah, I agree. I think he deserves one more shot. Some of the in-game managing is gonna have to get a little better, but I think he can improve. He'll learn from this. It was his first postseason experience as well. So I am happy to hear you say that, because I am pleasantly surprised. Because the majority of the Sox fans would like his head.
Well, I'd also like to mention that the majority of Sox fans, they want to bring back Ozzie Guillen.
Oh my God, I know.
I think a lot of White Sox fans, they reminisce about 2005. I mean, if it was up to them, it would be Ozzie Guillen as manager, Paul Konerko as first base coach, AJ Przinsky, and then Mark Burla as their pitching coach. So I mean, I'd take that with a grain of salt, because I've heard people saying, "Oh, bring back Ozzie," so many times. It's frustrating because Ozzie's done.
Look at
Be real.
If you look at
the extent of the White Sox career,
mm-hmm.
We saw how that went, and we saw how he was in Miami. So,
the Marlins thing was a disaster, and he wonders why he hasn't gotten any interviews since then. I think he basically it was a dumpster fire his past couple years with the White Sox, and I think 2005 did a lot to cover the odor of those last two seasons before they fired him. And you saw with the Marlins, that was just a train wreck too, and a roster that had some talent on it. So, Ozzie would be a disaster.